Here we are, dear Deb, for another deliciously motivated conversation. And today we want to talk about the shoulds, releasing the shoulds. Now, what should we talk about today?
I think we should talk about releasing the shoulds. The shoulds.
Yeah. How does that show up? Because I think we all do it, don't we?
You do it without realizing, and if you actually recognize a word that you say you never do, or you never say something, or you never do something, the universe goes, righto, within 24 hours.
It's going to happen multitudinous times.
And you're going to get it full front, full on, straight away. But when you say, oh, I don't say the word should, and then you suddenly hear say, you should do this. Why are you not doing this? You should do this. This is going to help you. Should.
Yeah.
And it's a soul destroying word.
It really is. It's that it's shooting yourself. Well, it's shooting yourself, but it's everybody else.
Shooting yourself.
Shooting yourself. But it's a really interesting point, because sometimes it's a really interesting introspection to watch that. Like, I like what you just said, that you say, I don't say should. And then, of course, the universe goes, yep, there she goes. You should do this, and you should do this. But if we find ourselves doing it, and this is what I'm saying, I find it fun, is pause and say, says who? If I say, okay, Deb, you should do it this way, and then I go, whoa, whoops, there's that word. Who said that?
Yeah, who ingrained that into your mind before you're passing that on to somebody else?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so in my own experience of that, it will often be upbringing or something from my childhood, or some kind of belief that it ought to be this way. And so therefore you need to conform. So we're trying to create people in our image, right?
You actually had a really valid point there, because you talked about from our upbringing, and our greatest teachers or mentors or learnings have come from literally our parents or our siblings.
Yes.
And then our teachers at school, and they are the ones who have come in, because if you listen to an inspirational speaker who says you should do this, you won't hear them say should.
No, you won't.
But no, it's just a word that, well, I'm going to say that, and within the next 24 hours I'm going to hear a million freaking inspirational speakers say the word should. Well, I haven't been conscious of them saying the word should, but our parents, because as a parent myself, I think I know more than my daughter.
Right.
Some days I do, some days I don't. but and I don't want them or anyone to fail in my mind and repeat the same things that I did. So you should do this, do this, right. But it is, and it's come from that whole parenting. So if we go back to the different parenting styles, my mother was old-fashioned in certain ways, but then young in other ways. But some of the moral judgments, you should do this, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't go and talk to boys, or you shouldn't be out late at night if you're a teenager, or you shouldn't invest in Ponzi schemes. And when I had that whole multi-level marketing thing that we've all looked at, oh, you shouldn't do that, just because it sits in a memory that they've had from a young age of whatever's happened to them. But it's that should, and it is mainly, I think, our parents. And, I don't often, I'm thinking about this, I haven't often heard my grandparents say should. It has been mum and dad. It has been that. The teachers, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this. And to me, it's just about accepting. It's funny, my mum just messaged as I say this. You should do something. I bet you there's a message.
Pay attention to the message that she just sent.
Exactly.
This is a really... Sorry, I want you to finish your thought there.
No, I'm just going to say, but it is a thing that we've had ingrained with us, that we're trying to, I think we're doing it to protect the other person, to stop them from,
to stop them from failing or suffering. Absolutely.
Quote mistakes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But interesting that you say that about parents, because I think about my upbringing and my father. I think in reflection, there was a lot of things that I would have liked him to say, you should do this. I would be looking for him to say, which choice should I make? So my upbringing, Dad was a little bit in that you need to read his mind. And so he also felt like we all had to make our own mistakes and learn from our own mistakes. And so therefore he wasn't going to tell us. But of course I'm an intuitive, and so I would always read his mind and know. And so the indoctrination was still there.
Yeah.
So I'm bringing that up because even when the choice is not to indoctrinate or say you should do it this way because I say so, or because I want to keep you safe, and you try and do it a different way, the indoctrination, and that's because ultimately I think that's what it is, right? Is that a should create an indoctrination.
Absolutely. And it's ingrained and it stays there.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the time when they say you should do that, my instant reaction is, who are you to tell me what to do? As I rise in my chair, who are you to tell me what to do? I'm going to do the opposite because I know best. You know, because of course I know best.
Of course you do.
Absolutely. But that's exactly it. And it's, are we going to listen to that person? Have they given us a valid point why, or are we just listening to them?
Right.
You know,
yes,
you should do this. You know, you should eat breakfast before you go to school.
right.
Well, that's a common knowledge. You know, that's a common no-brainer.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to eat breakfast because you've told me.
Yeah, because you've told me that, I'm not going to do it now.
Yeah, you should eat breakfast to give you energy. Mm-hmm. Well, if I don't, what's going to happen to me? Well, I know what happens to me because I didn't listen to my upbringing when they told me I should do things, and I've crashed and burned. But I think the thing is, and I sometimes say it to my daughter, and I hear myself say it, and I cringe, and I go, I don't just say it because I like the sound of my voice. I'm giving you this advice because, and that's because I should have heard. I should have heard.
You should have
told her. Yeah, I should have heard her, and she hasn't listened to me. So
right. So now, yes.
So then I follow through with, yeah. I'm not just saying this because I like the sound of my voice. I'm saying this because I haven't packed it enough. Why she should listen to me.
Right. But that's a really good point. So this is the thing of, on the one hand, when we find ourselves saying you should have breakfast before you head off for the day. But then how would it be to then not be attached to the outcome? If you say, Sophie, you should listen to me or do it this way, and then let go.
Well, as parents, how easy is it to let go?
Mm-hmm. It depends on how old the child is too, though, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But then also in a business environment, you say to your clients or customers or anything, oh, you should buy this, or that dress looks amazing. Shop assistants, that dress looks amazing on you. You should get that. I should. And literally, as soon as I hear that word, everything in my body just creeps into a tight ball of, don't tell me what to do.
Exactly, because it may actually be the best thing. But the example that just landed for me as you're talking about that is with my clients. My coaching clients know this. I have a session prep form, which I like people to sign, to fill out and send me 24 hours before their session.
Yeah.
When they start with me, I tell them, I like you to do this, but if it doesn't resonate, don't do it. And
that's a nice one.
Yeah, because you see, then I would say probably, it's actually sometimes more like 20% of my clients will actually fill it out. But the ones that do, it really helps their process. Whereas the ones that don't, they much rather going with the flow of what comes up in the session right then and there. And that's fine.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying is I am not going to say, here's your session prep form, you should fill it out in order to get the best. I do it much more in a space of it's intended for this purpose, but you choose to do it or not.
Do you type the word should? Because I don't know if I actually type the word should. I know it comes out my mouth because it's not really, but I also, one of the things I say to people is it would be wise to.
Oh, that's a good one.
And then I'm not telling them what to do.
Yes.
in my mind. In my mind, I'm not telling you, it would be wise to fill this out. Then we can, then I can understand you, you can understand me. It can allow you. And I just find it would be wise to, as just a different reframe that people go, oh, and
yeah,
they,
because that taps into their wisdom. So
yeah,
for the words that I do use is, this is intended to help you get the most out of your sessions.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
This is intended for you. Yeah.
And so then, to me, the wording where I'm coming from is, I'm empowering you, because I used to watch people say, oh, they'd apologize. They apologize. Oh, so much. Sorry, Moira, I didn't get that form off to you. It's like, don't apologize to me. It's your session.
If you only want to put in 50% effort, then that's all you can handle. Then that's okay. Yeah. And that's an apology is another thing too. That's another completely different.
Yes, we're going to do a separate episode on that. But yes.
Well, that comes into should as well, because an apology is because they haven't got their message across or whatever it is, but somebody else has ingrained something into their mind, and that should as well. I should have done that, or I need to apologize because I've failed in doing it, or whatever it is.
That brings me reminds me of something. Just last night I was watching this show on Netflix, and it's about a group of midwives who are helping in Africa, and the one of the African women talks about babies she's lost. One died in childbirth, and one died and the British nurse immediately says, I'm sorry. And it was the look on this African mother's face. She was totally befuddled. She's like, why would you say sorry? Why would you be sorry? It's like, I'm in the present moment now. And the response was, oh, it's just something we say. Isn't that a classic example of should?
Oh, wow.
It just really, yeah.
Yeah, wow. And to capture all that, that's beautiful to capture all that on camera, but to actually see the whole dynamics, watching the body language and hearing it. And then, but she would have said it from her heart, like, that's what we say, I'm sorry.
That's right.
And then the other person's like, why? And then she would have been like, oh my God, I'm sorry for saying sorry.
Exactly.
I'm sorry for saying sorry. But she's actually called her on it, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
But actually to make her think, it's what we say. And next time when she goes to say sorry, she's going to think, do I say this to make the other person feel right or not? But yeah, sorry is another angle. She should not say that.
Should not say it. But sorry, and this is a really good should and sorry, I think, do go very well together, simply because when we say sorry, it should
be received with.
But it needs to come from our heart. It's not to get into our head and saying, oh, well, people in my situation should be doing this. Because then it's not genuine.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I don't want somebody saying, oh, I'm so sorry for that, if they're just trite and it's coming from, this is what society tells me I'm supposed to do.
Well, it's their baggage, their emotional stuff that's stuck inside them, because she's obviously clearly seen maybe a lot of babies lost, and so her first thing is to actually and to say, I'm sorry you've lost this child, and instead of actually saying, oh wow, well, in that situation you'd have to tend very carefully, but seeing the blessings of it. And that's exactly what the other woman said, like, wow, no, I'm sitting here in this present moment, like she's right here. If she had not, if she was still pregnant, the story would have been different or everything, but she's actually living right in the present, gratitude right for that moment right there and then.
Yeah.
But the other lady, and you're right, society does say we have to say sorry, and you should do certain things, and that's that morals and ethics we were brought up with. I was brought up with you sit at the dinner table and you chew with your mouth shut, and you don't open your mouth and talk until that mouthful's gone. That's something you should do, and that's a firm belief in my mind. And I say that, and I say that out loud, and I guarantee within the next 24 hours I'm going to be talking with my mouth open. Damn universe. But I mean, that to me is a should, but I'm not going to correct you if I'm sitting with you, Moira, and having food, which we have.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't remember you eating with your mouth
And
full.
I don't because I was brought up to know that you should not do that.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a should in my mind, but that's my morals and ethics. My morals that I was brought up with. You don't interrupt people when they're talking. Well, I do, but I shouldn't. But
Right.
it's morals. Your upbringing will be different to mine. You had more children in your family than it was my sister and I.
Yeah.
Sibling, Sophie, my daughter's upbringing will be different. If you asked your sister about her upbringing, even though you're both in the same room, her story will be different to your story.
Totally. Yeah, and we often do compare notes and say, "Oh
Laugh.
gosh, I saw it. They're totally different," and laugh. Yes, but I like what you just said though, because maybe this is part of the releasing the shoulds, is to just be aware of the ethics and the morals and the isms that we adhered to, or we were brought up to believe this is a good way, this is a proper way, or this is being polite, or
Yeah,
what I'm saying. But then go around with a space of compassion and interest, and go, oh gosh, there's this group of people, they all laugh and party and talk out loud with their mouths full of food.
yeah,
and to not then say, oh, they're wrong because they're doing something that's not in alignment with how I was brought up to believe, right?
Yeah, and I think, for me, if I sat in a room of people who did that, I would be unfiltered, mouth open, wide, eyes wide open, mortified. I would be absolutely mortified. And then I'd go, okay, so this is not about what they're doing. They're not spitting food on you. They're actually literally, no one's going to want to go out for dinner with me now. I'm going to be very conscious after this. But they're not spitting food. They're actually having a great old time. So that would then be a torn, perception, because I've been brought up that you must not do it. And then I'd look at these people having a right old time, laughing and not even caring about it. And I go, gosh, why have I held on to that quote should for so long? Because clearly these people in front of me aren't damaged. I'm not, getting damaged by it. It's actually a different dynamic. So do I hold on to that that morals and ethics that I've been brought up with, or do I just let it go, and it's stored in my mind?
I like that. So, this is something that I do this to myself, and I often get my clients to try this, is that let's say in the example you just shared, that you are so incensed that you had to leave. There's just no freaking way you could be in the company of these people that were heathens. And
well, I'll just stop you there, because walking away from food is something that would take a lot for me to walk away from. So it would have to be, they'd have to be really spitting it out. They'd have to be extreme for me to leave that food table. Okay, now you can carry on. Let's just get really clear about that.
Just keeping it real. Absolutely. Yeah. What I do is in my mind, I will keep saying, this is not about me. This is not about me. So them doing something that's different to what I was conditioned to believe, they're not doing it to piss me off or upset me or offend me or anything. They're just having a great time.
And they may not even know what your triggers are. They may not even know that I'm sitting there mortified.
Yeah. But that's why I'm saying is it's not about me. Right? Because that brings down the charge for me.
Yeah.
Because they're just having a great time.
Well, it's obviously not bothering them, because nobody's saying...
Nobody's calling them on it or saying you shouldn't do that. Right? And so just by, to me, it's like repeating that as a mantra. This is not about me. It's not about me. It's not about me. And so that's all. In some ways, what I'm doing is I'm talking to that wounded part, or that part that's indignant, right? There's an indignant vibe about a should.
Yeah.
And so by saying that, I'm saying it's okay, it's okay, it's okay.
Yeah, because it's going straight back to you. It's going straight back into your own heart. It's bringing you back to, it's not about me. This is so it is. It's when you hear that should, it's that, where does this come from?
Yes.
You know, where has this come from? Who's told me? Is it really important that I need to abide by this? Like, is it going to, my thing is, you know, I'm not that fussed on the illegal stuff, but, you know, is it illegal? Is it legal? You know, before I make decisions, it actually sounds quite wrong. Shouldn't say that, but too late, it's out. But is this going to affect my health and well-being? Is this something that's going to, you know, am I going to be able to sleep at night with my moral judgment? Am I not? Is this going to allow me to be? Is this going to help this person if I say this? Or is it going to destroy them? Or, you know, if it's going to help them in any way, then I should, quote, as I put my fingers in the air, say it or not. It would be wise for me to say this.
It would be wise for you to say it. I like that much better. Let's start a movement for that. It would
be wise.
It'd be wise for you to do this. It'd be wise for you to have breakfast before you left.
You know, it's just as a little different frame and a little energy. You know, when I say it to people, I say, it'd be wise if you did this. And sometimes I say because or whatever it is, or sometimes I don't. Because I don't want to plant. It'll be wise for you to eat breakfast before you go to a school because it's going to give you more energy. I don't need to tell people it's going to give you more energy, children. You don't need to say that because they know.
Yes.
Like, or it depends what age they are, but sometimes you don't actually need to tell them. It'd be wise if you had, you know, it would be wise if you cleaned your teeth when you got up in the morning. I don't need to tell you because you've got bad, stinky morning breath and there's no way the dog's even going to come and give you a kiss. So there ain't nothing like that. But sometimes you don't need to confirm that next part.
Right.
You know, you should do this because it would be wise to. Yeah, if I say to you it would be wise to do that, your whole shoulders, you as the receiver, just feel very different. You're taking ownership of your own wisdom. Yeah, I think you said that earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is uplifting and honoring the wisdom, the collective wisdom. There's a sense of and here's my finger going up. When we say should, it's like the you shoot, right? Whereas it would be wise. There is no pointing. There is no finger pointing.
No, see, just looking at your hands now, you're not even pointing, but you've actually got flow. It would be wise to. Yeah, and it's more in alignment with your body as a giver and as the receiver to take it on. Yeah. I do like the stopping and reflecting and where's this come back from. I like that. I think that's a great one. Even just that, you know, it comes back and you just, it stops you and you just feel, oh. I remember my daughter, listening to my daughter, and she was having problems with her mobile phone, and so I said, well, you know, ring them. And you know, she was 15 or 16, I think, and the whole thought of ringing a call center was too much for her. And I'm like, well, I'm not doing it. Right. I'm all for, you know, stand up and you ring them, because the only thing is, you deal with it. You're going to have to deal with it when you're a grown up. You think you're semi-grown up. And he said, oh, this, and this. And he said, and it should work. And instantly because I could only hear her conversation, and she really was very firm with him about the word should, because when someone says, oh, it should work, we go, oh, great. Some people, but some people have that trigger word of should. Well, it should work. Well, why am I going to do this if it should work? I want to know, is it going to work or it's not? Exactly. So he couldn't give her a commitment that it's going to work or not. And she's like, well, I'm not going to do all this whole process if it should work. Like I want it to work or not, you know, and hearing that. But it was quite interesting. And she was like, did you know? So I heard her educate him on the word should. And as much as I was cringing, I thought, you know, it's actually quite a great thing for call centers, because they say, oh, it should work now. Well, what if it doesn't? Right. You know, and and what if it doesn't? Yeah. Because where's your guarantee that it's going to work? Exactly. But you know, there's something even more like deeper in that, in what you just said. The thing that I just thought of is if you take somebody through a process and then you say it should work, and you leave them there, it should work, and let's say it doesn't. Right there, to me, in my mind, a lot of people will think they're the failure. Yeah. Well, if that person said it should work and I've just done all the steps they said and it didn't, then it must be because it's my fault. I did something wrong. Interesting, because when you started talking and you said that, I didn't pull out a memory, but my whole body went, oh my God, I didn't do it. I didn't do it properly. Just
Yes.
even you giving that example right then, I went to that, I haven't done it properly. It's all me.
Yes. And exactly, I
No,
can
I
think
don't
of
even have a memory
so
of where I
many. I've had so many instances of that, and gone and checked and rechecked and rechecked and rechecked, thinking it's got to be me. It's got to be me because they said it should work. To only find out that no, there was a piece that they didn't give me, or a step that it could go this way or this way.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, see, that's one you can't use. It would be wise. It should work. Yeah, that's actually a great one. Yeah, my whole energy when you even just said that without even an example, I felt like a failure. I
Yeah.
felt, oh God, I didn't do it properly. What have I missed?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
And so that, to me, that really makes me very conscious of not wanting to say should to people.
Mm.
And because that, I don't like the idea at all of people second guessing themselves or taking it on that it's their fault. Something didn't work, so it's their fault. That to me is so disempowering.
Yeah, well, right from the you should fill out this form because it helps me understand who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it'd be wise if you filled out this form, which is very different.
Mm-hmm.
But you're giving your guarantee to them,
Yeah.
so well, it should have worked. But if you'd filled the form out, it's like you have a if you filled the form out, we would have a greater result.
Yeah.
So that's that whole blame thing. No buggers accountable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one. So instead of saying should, what could you say in certain instances?
So I liked your example of the wise, that you'd be
Yep.
wise to. I like that one a lot. I will say things like, I'll tell people what I've done and not even said, this is what you should do.
Okay.
Be like, well, if somebody gave me that form to do, I would fill the whole thing out and expect this. Yep. I sometimes use the word ought, but I don't know. That one's very, very much
I
like.
think is you ought to do this. Yeah, see, I think that's an American or Canadian over this side of the country, world. Yeah, ought to. Yeah, I do use the word ought a little bit. Yeah, I try and focus on the wise because I know when people say to me, it'd be wise if you did that, my shoulders just go back and I take ownership.
Like I said, I really do like that. But I also I like to look at how can I frame it up to allow the person to feel like they're choosing it for their best good. So it's an educational piece of saying, well, you could do this or this.
Yeah.
And maybe you could even put in, you could do this or this, but this is the wise one, or this is the one that's got the most accolades or the results. Yeah. But it's about gently, compassionately teaching people responsibility too, right?
Yeah, see, and that's the other thing, it's about getting them inspired so that they've actually got that calling within them.
Yeah.
That it's them who are actually driving it forward, because you can push people as much as you want,
mm-hmm.
And they should do it, but unless it's linked enough to what's important to them, they're not going to do it.
That's right.
So it's how can you get that message across that they can do certain things? Because there's clients I work with who I can say certain things and I don't even need to get an explanation.
Right.
Do this, and literally do this.
Yeah.
Do steps, bang, bang, bang.
Yeah.
But there's other clients I can't say do these steps. You've got to warm them up. You've got to gentle. You've got to massage. You've got to try from this angle and this angle, and until they go, oh, okay. How about I do it this way? And I'm like, oh my God, that was the first freaking thing I suggested. But yeah, well done. But I of course I don't say that. I think that in my mind. But I mean, as long as it lands in their mind, exactly, and they can understand it, and then they take action.
It's sometimes that you're reminding me of a client that I worked with for many years, and I remember her emailing me and saying, I think I'm going to do it this way, da 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 da. And then she emailed me back again and said, I just realized you've been saying this to me for 3 years. And thanked me for my patience.
It's funny because, look, I've been brought up to believe that you can't be the prophet in your own home, meaning projecting your words to tell people what to do, should and shouldn't, is very hard. So
Absolutely.
for myself, who's an inspirational speaker, educating my daughter, she's like, oh, not doing that, not doing that, not doing that. So I've had to do different angles to get the message across that I'd love her to hear. And just recently, we were at the weekend, someone said to me, oh, what's something inspirational that your mum's told you that you've held on to? And she goes, and they said this week, and she goes, oh, no, it wasn't mum, but I looked at this thing on Facebook, or I looked at this thing and this is a quote, and I'm like, oh my God, seriously, your mother? And I just went, it's not about you, Deborah. It's not about you. Yeah. It's about as long as they hear the message. And I don't care.
Yeah.
I can say, do this, this, and this, and she won't hear it.
Yeah.
My friend can say, do this, this, and this, and she won't hear it. And then someone else will come along and say, why don't you do this, this, and this? And it's all the same stuff. And she goes, what a great idea.
Yeah.
And she'll come home and she'll say, oh, you wouldn't believe it. So-and-so said to do this, and it's going to work. And I'm like, thanks.
But that's a beautiful example of that's how come there's so many people like us that are coaches and mentors and speakers, is we do all have to keep saying it and just trust. So if somebody hears it from my words, that's great. If they hear it from yours, that's great. If they need to hear it 5, 6, 7, 10 times, that's okay.
Or 3 years.
Or 3 years.
Yeah, as long as they hear the message, and to me, as long as you hear the message and you take action on it.
Yes. And not get into, like in the instance of this client, her propensity was to then shame herself because maybe she could have got better results if she'd listened to me 3 years ago. But it's not that. It's to just know it's okay. She got there. That's all that matters.
Yeah. Yeah, and she had to go through that 3-year journey to realize that she wasn't going to listen to it back then anyway.
Right.
I mean,
she wasn't ready.
I only found my first inspirational speaker, 13 years ago. I knew there was, speakers out there, but I didn't follow anything. And people would say, how did you not go through life? And I do kick myself and go, gosh, if only I'd seen Tony Robbins or John DeMartino, if only I'd ever seen any of these people way back when I was a teenager, this would have been amazing. And I'm like, no way.
No, you wouldn't have heard it.
Oh, I would have boo-hooed everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I remember when The Secret came out, I boo-hooed that, until I actually, my girlfriend made me watch it over and over and over again. Then I'm like, oh, there's little aspects in here I quite like. But then I never watched it again. But, everyone raved about it. I'm like, I'm not watching it because everyone else is raving about it. So I'm not doing it, because it's really mature. I should listen to that.
But no, we're always, but I do really believe, and so sometimes that does come up, oh, I should have listened to that back then. But nope, the version of you back then wasn't ready. And that's okay. And okay.
That's exactly it. And so I'll quickly go, okay, if I listened to it back then, what would I not have been able to do?
Yeah.
If I'd listened to it back then, I would have been a very different person now, from back then. But I mean, is when other people project their
agenda, their belief, their pattern, their ideals. Absolutely.
So I guess the thing is, when somebody tells you should do something, is to acknowledge it. I would say you acknowledge it and thank them because they've wanted to give you advice because they can see something greater that you can't. Acknowledge it, and then you can choose whether you want to take that whole sentence on board or just an aspect of it and do it or not.
Absolutely. But to make sure, and this is the thing, is to create yourself enough space to hold on to it and say, is this mine? Is this wise? Is this wise for me? Right? Yeah. So and that's why I'm saying is that somebody saying you should do this isn't about you. It's about them, but it's also an invitation for you to just sit in with it. Is it something that you're willing to try on or choose, or try and then say, no, it didn't work for me? But it's an opening. To me, it's as an opening.
Yeah, see, I was just thinking of that breakfast. I was brought up that you had to eat your breakfast. before you went. And nowadays I barely eat before lunchtime. And I didn't realize, I went to the doctor recently, and he's, talked about my eating patterns, and it was very funny. And he said, "Oh, you fast?" I said, "Oh, what?" He said, "Oh, you're fasting." And I went, "I'm not fasting. It's just stupid. Why would you want to fast?" And this is literally me having a conversation with the doctor. And he goes, "But you're not eating till lunchtime." I'm like, "Yeah, it's because I just don't like eating first thing in the morning." And he goes, "Well, that's fasting." And I was like, "Oh no,
fasting."
yeah, but I didn't know that.
That's
Apart from the fact when he said you're intermittent fasting, I'm like, "Oh well, I'm not going to do that anymore." Instantly my thought was, well, I'm not going to do that anymore, because he put a label on it. So instantly, you should. But it was interesting because I've been brought up that you should have your breakfast every morning, and my parents are very firm on that. And my daughter's, "Mum, why are you not eating breakfast?" "I just don't feel like it. I can survive without it." But now that there's an intermittent fasting, everyone's backed away from saying, "Deborah, you don't have to eat your breakfast,"
Right.
because it's labeled something that's healthy. It's worked for me. But if I'd listened, and growing up, I should eat my breakfast. Well, I had to, because I didn't, but I realized it doesn't work with me first thing in the morning.
No, I don't do breakfast either. I was also brought up that you had to eat your porridge, good Scottish girls. But I actually don't eat. I don't eat until usually about 1 or 2.
Yeah. So.
But I do have a bulletproof coffee every morning.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so
but that,
to me,
that works for you.
Yeah. And that's why I'm sharing that, is that, so I am actually doing intermittent fasting, or whatever people want to call it. But I actually love my bulletproof coffee every morning, and it feels good to do it that way.
And if that works for you to get going, then so be it.
Yeah.
I just look, if it works for you, just like that, you can listen to me, you can listen to Moira, you can listen to somebody else, or whatever, as long as it lands in your mind. And you take action on it, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
But intimate, being told, I think that's a great thing, is being told, putting a label on things. That's a great conversation for another podcast, because when people tell me, "Oh, you should do this," or, "Oh, that's intermittent fast," I'm like, "Oh, I'm not doing that." Like, right. I don't like, my daughter's into smoothies and, fresh drinks and everything. And she'll go, "Oh, would you like this?" And if it's got anything green in it, I'm like, "No." She's like, "But Mum, it's just got a look." No, it's green. I can see it green. A friend of mine, I was talking to him, he has a wellness company, and he said, "Oh, I've got this great green drink that you drink." And I'm like, "Oh, it's green." "No." He said, "Oh, no. We've created it's red." And I was like, "Are you serious?" Because I love the color red. I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Yeah, no, it's called the green." I can't remember what it's called, but it's called green something, but it's actually red. And I was like, "I can drink that."
You can drink that. Good
because
for
it's
you.
Red. But the moment the green thing, I go, green. No,
not happening.
Yeah. So it's those words that people should say to us. Yes. I do like that. Is this mine to take on board?
Yeah.
And is it wise for me to take this? Is this going to help me or not? Or is this just them, loving the sound of their voice?
Absolutely.
I say to my daughter.
Sometimes it's a mixture of all of that. So, my dear, I think we should wrap this up, but it would be really,
we should wrap this up.
But it would be really lovely to hear people's and how this lands for people. How does should show up for our listeners, and does this help? Like, are you willing to start looking at saying it would be wise if?
And what do they use instead of should? Yeah, I guarantee, Moira, you and I today will be shoulding.
Yes, I'm sure we will. Well, I just did it.
Oh yeah, you actually did it.
We should wrap this up, because our listeners are saying I should be on the way
doing something.
Yeah, I should be doing something different.
Yeah, I'm going to be shoulding today.
So here's something else though, is that it's still an English word. It's to watch the emphasis behind using that word. So if I'm saying, well, I should do this, and I'm just saying that because we all use that word, as opposed to using it from a very strong sense of judgment. You should do this, because if you don't, then you're falling
punished.
You'll be punished, or you're wrong.
You fail. And it's dark. It's dark.
Yes.
If you say you should do this, and it's you should do this, it's just dark.
Yeah.
You know, it's dark. It'll be wise to. Yes, that's very light.
It's very light, absolutely. But I still think if you come from your heart, you could actually bring lightness into that word.
Mm.
Remember I said earlier about the you should, and it's your pointing your finger.
Oh yeah, that finger goes out at me.
You could still do it. You should do it this way. You see,
I see. Even just when you said that you should do it this way, I was like, I'm not.
No,
I might have to have a hearing outside of this, Moira, to get rid of my should. As soon as you said, I'm like, I'm not.
No, not. It's just the reason I'm saying that is I'm really encouraging people not to beat up on themselves, which can tend to happen. You know, when we start saying, "Oh, I should stop saying should," and then every time it comes out my mouth is, "Oh, I did it again. Oh, I did it again. Oh, I did it again."
Every time it comes out, you have to laugh and go, "Huh,
Yeah.
there it is. It creeped in again."
Yeah. If you can do it with lightness, then that's good. And then see what can you use instead. I think different situations are going to call on a different thing.
Yeah, I'd love to know what people. Please, let us know what do you use instead of should, and how often do you use should, and there's no right or wrong, but I think when you say it, giggle to yourself, like acknowledge that word and go, oh, I can hear myself saying that. Oops. You know.
Yeah, that's a great way to
and if people say it to you, also, recognize why are they saying that. Is it wise, to do it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. As soon as you said should, I just went, oh, I'm not doing it. That's quite interesting. I do obviously have a triggered charge on that word.
Obviously, we might have to have a wee chat about this more.
Should.
All that being said, this has been a fun conversation, and I hope it has served people well to let go of some of those shoulds.
You hope it should? It should.
I hope it should. No, it should.
It bloody better. Oh, classic.
Thank you, dear Deb. It's always a blast.
Thanks, Moira. What a great call, and I should get onto my list of things I need to do today. Yeah, not going to happen.
Not going to happen. It would be wise if you went and had a wee look at your to-do list.
See, as soon as you said that, I went, yeah, you're right. God, isn't that interesting how that word triggers, lands? Okay, well, I would love to hear from people what.
Yes, we would love to hear from you. How are you going to be kind?
It would be wise for them to give us some feedback.
It would be wise. All right, until next time.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Bye-bye.